Hey everybody, it's me, Language Bay. You're now rocking with the best. So today we're here with Tanner. Hey Tanner.
Hello.
Hi, so we're here with Tanner and we're going to share her language journey. So tell us about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Tanner. I live in Tennessee from US. Um, and I've been studying languages for I think like dedicated to it for about 2, almost 3 years. Yeah, clearly native language is English. And yeah, I've always been in the US. I haven't traveled very much yet, but that's the goal. So I am learning Japanese, Korean, Spanish, and then kind of dabbling a little bit in German, Norwegian, and Portuguese.
Oh wow. I think I'm very impressed. I'm going to be honest with you, especially the dabbling in Norwegian and Portuguese because one, I really tried with Portuguese, but it's so hard. Because I keep using Spanish as my point of reference. I don't know if you have that issue, like where you're trying to learn and you keep trying to, it's like you keep saying it like it's a Spanish word, even though it's not. Do you have
hmm
that?
Well, personally, I have like just started Portuguese within the last few days. So I'm honestly not that far to confuse it yet, but I probably will get there. Yeah, Portuguese I just kind of started looking into recently and I'm just like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna play around with it a little bit. So that's all I have in Portuguese right now.
Yeah, I think because I was learning Portuguese because I would learn Spanish and was learning French, and so I was thinking, oh, I'm going to Portugal. I might as well learn Portuguese. It shouldn't be that hard. And I was like, it was really hard. And I tried to push through. And I think after a month or so, I only walked out. Like at this point, I only know like no falo Portuguese. Like that's it. Like I don't know much else. I tried to do and then also I don't know, are you learning Brazilian Portuguese or Portuguese from Portugal?
Brazilian.
Yeah, because I was going to Portugal, so I was like, I let me try to learn Brazilian Portuguese. I mean, Portuguese from Portugal, and it's really hard to find resources for that. So if you're learning Brazilian for Portuguese, then it should be much easier.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
there's a lot more popularity for Brazilian as opposed to European.
Yeah, it is. And then of course for the Norwegian, I'm curious, what made you want to like learn Norwegian?
So really, it was just a random interest. I'm just like, let's just add this to my Duolingo tree just to see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally all it was. I just kind of add a few languages where I'm just like, this kind of seems cool, and I just kind of play around with it for a little while. I'm not like actively dedicated to it yet, which I will hopefully get there at some point. But yeah, it's not really a main focus. It's just something fun that I'm just like, you know what? Why not?
I think it's very important because I know there's some people in the language community that sometimes take it, I don't want to say take it too seriously, but sometimes it's like they take it so seriously to the point where it's like it's not fun anymore and it becomes like a labor of love almost. It's like
Mhm.
you love to do this thing, but then you get so caught up in learning it perfectly and this and that, and then it's like not even fun anymore. So I really
Yeah.
like the fact that you're just like, oh, let's see, and just very lighthearted about it. I really, really like that. And I really encourage other people to kind of have that approach and not be so stuck sometimes on, oh, I want to sound like a native or oh, I want to like not make no mistakes at all. And you know what I mean? Because sometimes that zaps the fun out of it.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. I have some problems with that sometimes because I'm a perfectionist, so I want to have everything done correctly. Like especially with I think my main issue right now is with Korean. We
Hmm.
have an extreme love-hate relationship leaning towards the latter. But yeah, right now I'm finding a way to learn Korean through Japanese because that's my main language. Japanese is the one that I'm the most proficient in. And then I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but we're getting there. So I'm kind of trying to find a way for this to work. Korean and I are having issues at the moment, but I just want to get to know the language itself and just kind of have fun with it. But I need to get out of my perfectionist mindset to do that sometimes.
I can understand that. I don't know about everybody, but I know I also go through that too sometimes. But I think that's interesting. You mentioned that you're using Japanese to learn Korean. So tell me more about that.
So I call it language laddering. I have a post about it on Instagram, shameless plug. But so um, basically, Japanese and Korean have very similar grammar and vocabulary and stuff like that. So I've actually tried learning Korean through English first. It just did not work. I don't know why. My brain would not remember anything. But comparing it to Japanese, that is now ingrained in my brain, comparing it to Japanese kind of makes it easier and makes connections easier. Because,
Hmm.
for example, in Japanese and Korean, they have particles to mark like subject, object, location, things like that. We don't really have that in English. The closest we have that is like prepositions, but not even entirely. It's a lot. But it's a lot easier to make those connections like, oh, in Japanese, they use it this way. They use it basically the same in Korean. You just kind of need to get the translation from one to the other and just kind of plug it in that way. And it just makes a lot more sense to me instead of going from English, which has a lot of differences, to Korean. And it takes a lot of mental energy, and I'm not able to do that. So I'm just going to cut a step in half and just go to Japanese to Korean and just it works. It works a lot better.
I think that's a really good because I think I made a post about that. I might have archived it though, so it may not be on the Instagram. But I made a post about that and I think it was called "Use a Language to Learn a Language." But I like language laddering much better. That sounds so much better, language laddering.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very effective technique, especially when the languages are similar or they have similar concepts, right? Like you mentioned the particle thing, which I don't know anything about because I haven't started for real. Like I added Japanese to my Duolingo, but I did a couple lessons and was like, okay, my brain needs a rest now. So I don't know yet about that yet. But I know, like, for instance, with Spanish and French and German, there's this concept of there's two verbs for to know. And so in Spanish is saber and conocer. And then for French is savoir and connaître. And for German, it's wissen and kennen. And so it took me a really long time. I could not get in Spanish and French, I couldn't get it for some reason. Like, when do you use the, savoir, and when do you use connaître, right? Like, I just couldn't understand it. Like, I don't know. And because I learned German, like I learned it through immersion. So I learned it like how we learn our native language. So in German, I just instinctively know that's wissen, that's kennen, just because I learned it like that. I didn't learn it in school. And so one day I just was like, oh, that's like German, like with the wissen and the kennen. And then I finally was able to get it. So like now I just saying I get that. That's a really good tip. That's a
Yeah.
really good tip, I think.
And honestly, you just helped me out some because Japanese has the same thing. Two words for to know, which is shiru and wakaru. And I've been having issues with Spanish with saber and conocer.
Yeah.
So now I can do Japanese and Spanish together. I didn't think about that. That's a great idea. So that
Oh
worked
my
out really well.
oh my God, that's crazy. I'm excited.
Yeah.
um,
So that's a great idea.
yes. Okay, so I want to now you got me curious because I do want to talk about the blog. But before we get to your blog, because that language laddering, that's a good term. That's a really good term. I think
I
I
didn't look
I
it
I
up.
you didn't?
No, I found it. I don't remember where, but I've just been hearing the term a lot. Some people say language stacking, but I like laddering because I like alliteration and it just works. But I don't remember where I heard it, but I'm keeping it.
I
So
think
I didn't make it
laddering
up,
makes more.
but it's mine now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I think laddering makes more sense because stacking just kind of sounds like you're just learning on top of learning. And I think laddering kind of, you're trying to get from one place to the other. So I think that sounds better. But yes, before we get to your blog, so I wanted to ask a couple more questions. So I wanted to ask, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do professionally?
Oh, so I'm a college student right now. I am studying music business with a minor in Japanese. I'm about to graduate, yay, and then start my
Yay.
master's degree, so that'll be really fun. Um, but yeah, I'm actually working an internship right now in talent buying and event production in Nashville. So it's actually really great, and I'm enjoying this job. It's been really fun, and I've learned so much. But yeah, I love my major. It's a lot of fun. And being in Nashville, like the heart of music in the South, country music, everything, it's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So there's a lot of people I can learn from and a lot of experiences. I love it.
Have you had so far any language experiences in since you've been working in the music industry?
Not not quite. I've been able to talk to some people because there's not a lot of K-pop in the South and
Hmm.
J-pop, things like that. That's what I'm kind of interested in, and that's what I'm hoping to work in the future, over in South Korea or Japan, something like that. But we did actually have recently we had an experience with German, which was really funny. Long story short, we were going over some sensitive documents and things like that, but we had an address for somebody, and it was all in a different order than what we were used to. So we had to
Yeah.
translate things from German and go through Wikipedia and Google Translate and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? So
Hmm.
it was really funny. And I'm just like, well, German is interesting. It just, it was a moment, but it was kind of cool to see how another country like sets up their documents and things. So it was entertaining.
You know what I think is so funny? Even though parts of it is a little like the way they do like the street is a little different. But the postal code logic is the same as the one in the US because one thing I noticed is the postal code logic in Canada is the same as Great Britain. And I would imagine that ours would have been because they use letters and numbers.
Oh,
And we use just numbers like the German system does, 5 digits. So I thought that was interesting because always thought that was weird that they have letters and numbers in Canada and have letters and numbers in the UK, but we don't have letters and numbers. We just have numbers, and Germany just has numbers as well. I thought that
hmm.
was interesting. Um, but yeah, so okay, what else? And I'm just curious, besides that, did you have any other impressions about German?
I mean, not really. We just everything was in a different order, so we spent maybe 20 minutes trying to figure out where things go because we had to take it from German and put it in our English
Right.
database. So we had to figure out, okay, so this is the city, this is the postal code, and everything was it was in a different order, so we were a little confused, but it was kind of funny to see it was basically backwards, all it was backwards. So I don't know. It was
Yeah,
interesting to
yeah,
figure it out.
that's true. It is backwards. The street because they put the number after the street name and then they put the city after the zip code. Yeah, it is backwards. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then so you mentioned that you were minoring in Japanese. So what made you want to learn Japanese?
So that's actually an interesting story. So when I was a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with Power Rangers.
Mm,
And then I found out that it was from Japan, and I started watching the originals that were from Japan in Japanese with the subtitles and everything, and I'm like, this is fantastic and I love this and it's better than the American version. So then um the more I was watching it, the more I'm just like, this language is actually really cool. That's when I started learning Japanese from Power Rangers. It was really funny. But whenever I decided to learn it, I just kept going and I would integrate it into like my workout routine and just normal studying for school and anything that I could think of. I made like a huge stack of flashcards and all this stuff. And then I started taking tutoring lessons on italki and everything. So it was a lot of fun. And then that was before I actually started college. So then
Mhm.
when I was going to college, and originally I was music education and not anymore, but I was looking for programs that also had like Japanese classes too. So I found my
Mhm.
school in Murfreesboro. So that worked out very well. MTSU, go Blue Raiders. But it was just it was a lot of fun just to kind of figure out the parallels because I could see from what I was watching and what I was listening to, the music and everything. I'm like, oh, I know what that word means. I understood that. I understood that. It was a lot of fun, but I'm still obsessed with Power Rangers and Common Rider and things like that. I'm a huge nerd, so there are posters all around my room of just me being a nerd and including my shirt. But it's fun.
I mean, it is. And so, I didn't even know Power Rangers was originally Japanese. Like, I remember that was and I'm surprised with you saying that because I thought Power Rangers was like, it's really old. I figured, I don't know. I would have thought that you didn't really, I don't, I'm not trying to ask your age or nothing, but I thought you was much younger than that. I didn't think you would know what Power Rangers was. Um,
Well, I mean, they have newer seasons. They're still making new seasons. It's been 30 years. So, I mean, I've grown up with pretty much everything. I've seen maybe every episode, something ridiculous, all the way back to 93. But yeah,
Yeah,
they're
because
still
that's what I was
going.
saying. I think it was like, yeah, it was like in the 90s, right?
Yep.
When it first became popular in the US, I think.
Yep. 1993.
So, oh wow. And then I remember, I don't know if this is also from Japan, but I remember, or maybe it was like a copy, a spin-off or something, I don't know. But I remember like, I guess that was so like so popular, they came up with something that was very similar called VR Troopers. And I was like, I think I watched it.
Oh,
What?
VR Troopers was hilarious. I know that show. I watched that show. That was funny. It's been
I
years. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that show.
Yeah, like I remember them, and I remember watching the commercial. Like this kind of reminds me of Power Rangers, and then I think I watched it and was like, "Nah, I'm good." And so, what was your take on that? I know it's like aside, but what was your take on that?
um, it was special. I it's it's been years since I've watched that. I don't even remember most of it, but it was like a combination between Power Rangers and Kamen Rider, and it just wasn't it. It wasn't it.
I
It
didn't
was
like
not.
it.
I'm like, I'm gonna go back to Power Rangers now. No, thank you.
Yeah. I think everybody who was watching Power Rangers thought that. I think they were like, yeah, back to Power Rangers. It just
Pretty
wasn't
much.
wasn't it. And for some reason, blame the hormones, blame me being young, but I had like this crush on Billy for some reason. And you did too?
Oh, absolutely. Good choice.
Good choice.
Good
Okay, now I don't
choice.
feel bad because I thought I was gonna get clowned. I don't know.
Nope.
I liked Billy for some reason.
I loved Billy.
Um,
I love nerds, so automatically I was obsessed with Billy. He was awesome. I'm just like, hey, because he would use big words, and like me being a 9-year-old, I'm just like, I need to look up what this word means, and it was entertaining for me. So yeah, totally. And then like by season 3, like he got jacked and got really hot, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great.
but I liked him before then. I liked him
I
from the
did too.
very beginning.
Oh yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, oh wow, that's really neat. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so basically, okay, so you mentioned the thing with German. Was there any experiences that you had because of any of the languages? Like anything that you were just like, oh wow, like uh, anything?
Hmm. Wow. Um, I think probably my favorite would be recently we've had a bunch of exchange students come in from Japan, and we had like student events and everything, and I was helping run like Japan club at my school. and I've just gotten to meet the best people I've ever met in my life. They're amazing. We just had people like for the last school year from Osaka, and I love them all. They're all sweet. I've adopted like four of them.
Oh my
They're amazing,
gosh.
and we still talk to this day. Like I'll just text them something random, and it's a lot of fun. Then this summer we have students from Tokyo that are here, and they're all so sweet. I have my best friend. Like we're probably gonna be friends for a long time. Shout out to Natsuki. I love her with my whole heart. Um,
Oh,
we watch K-pop together, all this other stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I've just met some of the sweetest people, and I swear when I go to Japan, I'm gonna go and see all of them again. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I love them, and I wouldn't have had that experience if I wasn't learning Japanese and understanding the culture or anything else. And I'm thankful for that every day. Love it.
I always think it's really nice. I think it's nice to connect with people. Like, don't get me wrong, like some people have had some unparalleled experiences because of language, myself included, like, some very tangible experiences. But one thing about connecting with people is like that's priceless. It's really,
Absolutely.
especially when you connect with good people that like accompany you throughout your life or most of your life after you've connected with them. So I think that's amazing. And it's like I meet so many Black girls that are learning Japanese or are fluent in Japanese. And it always makes me wonder because part of the reason that I know German is because we were stationed here. Well, that's really the main reason. I would have never picked German ever in my life. But we were stationed here. And I remember my mom, when she got stationed, they gave her a choice of duty station. She was like, hey, kids, the military gave me a choice. They said I could choose either to get stationed in Germany or in Japan. Where would you like to go? And I was like, Germany. And my sister was like, Japan. And I was just like, I don't want to go to Japan. And I just wonder sometimes, like, if we would have went to Japan, would I be speaking Japanese right now?
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
would have been there immersed in it. And I know I would have eventually, learned that. But I always wonder that. And then, I know this is just like a little disjoint, but I always think of that when I hear about you guys learning Japanese and speaking Japanese. I think it's so cool. Honestly, I love
Yeah.
I love seeing Black people speak Japanese or Chinese or Korean or um, any kind of language that is not typically a heritage language for us, because usually heritage language for us is like French, Spanish, um, any kind of Creole, patois, something like that, even Arabic, depending on where we are from. So I love seeing us see things, speak something that is like atypical.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think about that sometimes too, actually. My first experience with Spanish was in like homeschool when I was young, like 5, 6. But then again in high school for my language credit. And I'm like, what would have happened if I stuck with Spanish the whole time instead of like now I'm restarting it and just kind of refreshing what I did from high school? And I'm like, what would have happened if I stuck with Spanish the whole time and not touched Japanese or anything? Sometimes
Say that one more time.
I think about it sometimes, so I think about the same thing.
I think, yeah, but I mean, I think everybody is learning what they're supposed to learn and they are where they are supposed to be. But I mean, I think it's normal to sometimes wonder, like, what would happen if that? So, with that said, um, so what would you say are like some language struggles that you have? Like, for instance, I know some people, I know this is one I always hear in the group. One I always hear in the group is the speaking thing. I know people have these encounters with the language partners sometimes. I'm not, I don't care though. I'm gonna still speak if I want to. But that's just an example. Like, what are some language struggles that you've had with those languages?
Um, I have so many. Probably. The speaking one is definitely one of them. I get
Mhm.
nervous. Like I'm friends get something wrong, even though
Mhm.
they're super supportive and way to say it, or here's a correction or something. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. But I'm always nervous to speak. Um, right now, my biggest problem is I'm over planning. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna plan all this out and whatever, but I'll be planning for weeks and just distracting myself from actually getting things done. That is
I'm
uh
sorry.
but I don't actually do it because I'm still planning it. It's so much. And I'm just like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm going to do this grammar thing in Korean and some vocab in Japanese and keep my Duolingo streak. I just need to do that.
Mhm. Right.
Logically, I know that's what I need to do, but I still don't. And I need to break that habit.
I think a lot of us, because I and that's why I laugh, because I'm guilty of that too. Like, oh, what do I need to do today? And I think it's important to like just get started. So what I do and what really has helped me is honestly, I have just because I'm actually studying for another exam, so I can't really dedicate like a actual time like that. So what I do is I just right now rely on Duolingo. So I just rely on my streaks and oh my god, I'm getting a message about my battery. So just give me 1 second.
You're
I
fine.
need to I need to plug it in. So hold on 1 sec. I guess I normally try to be that speaker at but hey, I guess it's relatable, right? Everybody's battery. So anyway, but I forgot what I was saying. That totally caught me off guard. I didn't want my
Um,
MacBook to cut off while I'm recording.
over planning and
Oh,
procrastinating.
yeah, so I just completely rely on Duolingo. I'm like, okay, let me. And I think the leagues, like the whole, hey, you're in the demotion zone and this, I think that really, that I think those are the things that keep me putting in a good amount of time. And then of course when they give you like the bonus 15 times 15 minutes of the double your thing, um your I forgot what it's called, but you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
so I think
your
those things
experience or
really,
something.
yeah. And so when I get the, out of nowhere, I do like a couple lessons and then now they're like, oh, you got 30 minutes. And it's like, man, okay, because I don't want to waste it. So now I have to spend 30 minutes. So I usually just do that. Like I know, like, okay, if I'm sitting down to do Duolingo, I'm usually like, okay, I'm gonna do this like 1 or 2 lessons, but I also know I might get one of those bonus things for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and just mentally be prepared to do that. But if they don't give it to me, I just don't do it. And that's how I manage that. Just get it done and just get it off my plate. But I think those things kind of help me keep in touch with the language daily and stuff. Um, and it's oddly enough, I was reading an article saying like Duolingo does not help. And I mean, I don't think me personally, I find it hard to believe that somebody could become fluent solely from Duolingo. Yeah, okay. But using it as one of your resources, I think is very helpful. What do you think about that?
I completely agree with you. If it's only Duolingo that you're using, you're gonna learn a few different things, some normal everyday phrases, whatever. You can learn some stuff from Duolingo, especially if you use like that notes section in there and actually study that and use it correctly. But you're not gonna get everything from it. Because really, if you finish Duolingo, you're only gonna get to about like a B1 level, if that. B1, B2, something like that. I'm not sure what the statistic was, but Duolingo is actually really helpful in solidifying the vocabulary that you've learned from like maybe a textbook or from your speaking partner, something like that. So it's good daily practice to solidify what you've already learned, but it's not your sole resource.
Yeah, I don't think it should be. But I do feel like, one thing I feel like I have learned with Duolingo, because I added French in there, Spanish is in there, and I added German actually kind of to cheat. Like, so I need some quick points, I'll just go in there and knock some stuff out. And but I also know that, like, I do have trouble with the articles sometimes. Like, I know the words, but I don't know the articles all the time. So sometimes, it is kind of to like, oh, okay, because there's three articles. There's like feminine, masculine, and the neutral. And so I only have a 33% chance of getting it right. So I'll
Oh
go in
yeah.
there and I'll add that. And I will say that I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like Duolingo, for I have they I use Duolingo for different things for the different languages. So like
Yeah.
with German, I just use it to, like, okay, maybe learn the article and then just get a couple extra points if I need it before, so I can stay in the league. For French, it's really like comprehension, listening comprehension, because I realized with Duolingo that you really have to pay attention with French, because there's a difference between, like, for instance, there's a difference between il comprend and il comprend. Like, il comprend is like he understands, and il comprend is they, masculine, understand. And it's like, if
Oh.
you're not paying attention to that subtle difference, because I would keep getting things wrong on the listening. And I'm like, I don't understand. It all sounds the same. So it's like, now I've kind of like tuned my ear a little bit. Like, are they saying, il écrit or il écrive? Or, you know what I mean? Like, so that's one of the things. I use Duolingo for French. I use it for the listening comprehension, because really it's hard. And then for Spanish, I use it like with the different, the different verbs, right? So conditional, subjunctive, and this, because it's really hard for me to just learn that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't know if you have that, like, where you use it for different things for the different language, not the same for each language.
Oh yeah, definitely. Japanese, um, Japanese, I kind of just use it for everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really specific for Japanese. It is definitely the language I would go to if I need to get higher in the league, because I can just run through it.
Yeah.
Um, and then Korean, listening, and just right now I'm kind of focusing on particles, because that's what I'm working on through Japanese right now. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so this compares to this, and it just kind of solidifies it all in my brain. And then Spanish, right now, I'm still trying to get like what my level is in Spanish right now. Like if I'm still in basic or I'm still intermediate, or I'm not sure. So I'm just trying to figure out like what all I know. So I'll like go through a lesson or two or whatever. I'm just like, okay, I understand all of that. And then I'll skip. And then, okay, I understand that. And I'll skip. That's the only language I really do that with, because I'm trying to remember everything from high school. And that was a while ago. So I'm like, I don't know. But and then everything else I'm just kind of chilling with it. But Korean is very important for the listening, because the pronunciations for things are like in between the letters. So like there's a character, um it's between like G and K. It's like not entirely aspirate. It's like gut like that. It's very weird, but I have to listen for that in Duolingo, because there's two different characters that could be, and it's a lot. But Duolingo is really helping with my listening for Korean specifically.
And this is the thing. Okay, so I don't know much. I just only vaguely remember, because we had the Souls conference a couple years ago, and I remember LaDonna from Discovering Language. She was learning Korean, Japanese, and Mandarin, and she did a presentation on East Asian languages, like how to balance all of those. That was a while ago, so I don't remember. But I was gonna ask, like, do you find a lot of Do you find a lot of commonalities between the two? Do you also deal with like what they call false friends? So like a character that looks like a character, like they look exactly the same, but they don't mean the same thing.
All of the time. Japanese and Korean, they're very, like, reading them, very different. They have different pronunciation and different reading. And I love that because I don't get that part confused.
Okay.
What I do get confused is Japanese characters versus other Japanese characters. Because kanji is terrible. It is so hard. One stroke difference could be a completely different word and completely different pronunciation. It's
Mm-hmm.
insane. I did try learning Mandarin for like maybe 2-3 months with Japanese. Never again. No, just no.
Really?
It confused me so much. Like, I have nothing against Mandarin Chinese. For me, it does not work while I'm still learning Japanese. I can't do that. Meanings could be the same, but pronunciation and tones, definitely not.
Mm. Interesting. I'm not, I mean, I don't know. I haven't even started looking at Mandarin. Like, I'm just so intimidated at Mandarin and Japanese, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But and like for the naked eye, because for me, I consider my eye the naked eye. I mean, I see some things, like I'll see things in Mandarin, and then like I'll see something like, just because certain characters jump out at you, right? Like you see a character that looks like a house, and then you like, okay, that looks like the Japanese character, but how does that work?
A lot of Japanese characters, well, really all of them, all of the kanji is taken from Chinese. So
Oh, okay.
most of the time, not always, because there are always exceptions, but most of the time, if you're looking at a Japanese character and a Chinese character, they're the same thing. They mean the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a different pronunciation. Japanese, you have 5 vowels, just a, i, u, a, o. That's it. Chinese, you have like 25, 20, 30 something because of all the tones. So like could be just or like the whole thing.
Oh,
I'm exaggerating,
goodness.
but it's a lot. So when I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this one character, I'm just like, let's just stay with the Japanese. It makes more sense to me.
Right.
If I want to learn Chinese, which probably not going to happen right now, not in the near future, I would have to sit down and see the comparison between Chinese and Japanese and figure out what the pronunciation is differently and drill that in my head, because I will always go to the Japanese because that's what I know first. So it's hard to
And
do both at the same time, especially when Japanese is my main language.
and that's how I feel about Spanish and Portuguese, because like I'm, some of the words are so hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, mujer in Spanish, in Portuguese, it's, I can't even pronounce it. It's like mulher, mujer. I can't pronounce it. I always want to say mujer because I can't pronounce it in Spanish, in Portuguese. It's like I can't. I don't get it. I'm sorry. And it's like I see it. Like looking at Portuguese, I could see it and like, oh, okay, that looks like mujer and whatever. But like when they pronounce certain things, I'm like, I can't say that because I don't know. I don't get it. Um, so I have that same thing. Like it's hard when you're like have the Spanish as a point of reference and you're actively involved in that, and then you're trying to, like, Portuguese sounds like people who are trying to speak Spanish but they're just not. That's what it sounds like to me. But
Completely
anyway,
understand.
yeah, and it's just like I don't think so. But I mean, it's kind of fun, but it's just the I can't pronounce it, so it kind of takes the fun out of it because I like to be able to pronounce and hear myself and like, okay, I'm getting the hang of it, and then when you're not getting the hang of it, it's kind of like, I'm kind of a perfectionist in that way too. It's like if I can't do it right, I don't want to do it at all. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know. So I wanted to ask, which I guess I don't want to assume I know the answer because I'm always get surprised when people answer this question. So out of all the languages, which one would you say is your favorite?
Oh yeah, you know the answer to that. Japanese. Japanese. No question. I adore that language. It is so fun. It's starting to actually make sense in my brain to where there are moments where I'm thinking in Japanese
Oh,
and
nice.
figuring things out in Japanese. And there was a day where I was talking to one of my friends and I completely forgot the English word to something. And Japanese just came out. And I'm trying to remember what word it was. I think it was the word creepy. So I said kimoi, which is creepy in Japanese. And she's like,
Wait,
what?
what? Say it again?
Kimoi is
Mm-hmm.
creepy in Japanese. So I said, like, we were talking about something, and I said kimoi, and she's like, what is that? What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, oh, I had a whole crisis in the middle of Taco Bell. It was an issue. And I'm just like, what is the English word? I don't know what it is. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, this has never happened before. It was it was a moment. It took me 10 minutes to say something in English and it was insane. And I'm like, that might actually be a good thing because I'm thinking in Japanese in some ways. It was entertaining, but it was a scary moment, but it was a good moment afterwards where I'm like, oh, my Japanese is becoming second nature. So that's really good. It makes me happy. But
Um,
yeah, love it.
do you find yourself like, for instance, if you have to say a word in that language, like wanting to continue the sentence in the language? Like, for instance, that
Ah,
happens to be here. Like, for instance, if I go, like, it happened today, as a matter of fact. Like, I went to Five Guys. Yes, we have Five Guys in Germany. I went to Five Guys. Oh, I shouldn't be saying this because I hope my health coach isn't watching because my health coach is actually, I interviewed her on here. But anyway, so I went to Five Guys and she was asking like in German, like, oh, what toppings do you want? And then I was like, gegrilled Zwiebeln, da da da. And then I was like, jalapenos. And then she was like, okay. And then I was like, it just I found myself trying to say the rest of the sentence in Spanish. That happens all the time. Or like, for instance, if if I go to go somewhere, another restaurant, and they're like, oh, and I'm just like, I don't know, like I just think, and then I would say something uh, like guacamole y quería una bebida, and then I would have to remember, no, you have to say that in German. Like, I don't know why, I just have this natural inclination when I say the Spanish word, then I try to finish the sentence in Spanish, even though I'm not speaking Spanish with that person. I don't know. Do you have that?
I've personally never had that, but I know exactly what you're talking about because my friends do that all the time. When they're like explaining something in English and they'll say something Japanese and then they'll finish in Japanese, and I'm just like, are you okay? Like, I mean, I know what they said. I know what they said, but like, um, we have a joke that our giant friend group, we all speak fluent Japanglish.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
that's our joke, and I love it. And yeah, I've never personally done that, but it'll probably come soon. That'll probably be in my head at some point.
I always feel a little silly because I always feel like, and even sometimes I will just say certain things. Like I would say things and then people, I don't know why, like I just use random words. Like I was talking about something and I was like, that's just straight up basura. And they're like, what is that? And I'm just like, trash, like that's just garbage. Or like somebody asked me if I wanted like to do something, and I was like, nunca, like never. And then like I do that sometimes, and then sometimes I kind of like reel it back because I don't know. Sometimes I just always have in my mind like I don't want people to think like I'm showing off or something, but it's just comes out.
Oh
And
yeah.
but one of the things I thought was really interesting, I want to know more about that. you said that you integrated Japanese because obviously it's like permeating through everything. So you said you integrated it into, did I hear you correctly? Did you say, was it like your self-care routine, or what routine was it you integrated it into?
Ooh, my workout routine.
Your workout routine, yes.
I love it. So, I love talking about this because it makes me happy. So, leg day is my favorite day.
Hmm.
So, on a good day, I will take my resistance band and I'll put it around my thighs like
Hmm.
normal and do my squats and whatever. But I will take Japanese flashcards and like I'll be sitting in a squat and I'll read my flashcard. And if I get the flashcard right, I just do a squat. But if I get it wrong, I drop into a burpee.
Oh my God, no. I'm sorry. I don't like burpees. I hate burpees.
And that's what motivates me to get it right. So
Child, I don't know if I could do
I
that.
love it. Oh, it's so fun. It's exhausting and it will work you out. But it's also fun because like if you get something wrong, you're just like, ah, and you have to do a burpee and it makes you upset. So yeah, but it keeps you motivated, it keeps you going the whole time. It'll make you sweat, it'll make your legs burn, but it's so fun. It's so fun. And also, I just had this idea just now, and I'm probably
Mhm.
gonna do that today when I work out. But what you can do is have like a conversation with yourself and just like speak in your language, like do something, like describe something, describe your dream trip, describe anything, but do it while you're sitting in a wall sit. And the more you get out, the sooner you're speaking, the quicker you're speaking, the quicker you're getting your ideas out, the quicker you get off the wall. So it'll be some
Okay.
motivation. So
Okay. I see where you're going with this. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I think I could tie that into something. Like I do, like one of the things I wanted to do, I'm not quite there yet either. I wanted, because I have affirmations that I say every morning.
yeah.
And me being a Virgo, I'm very detailed. So it's not just like a one-liner. It's like a whole poetry slam that I memorize every day. And I get in the mirror after the shower, look at myself in the mirror, look at myself in the eye, and I just recite my poem 3 times. Like that's what I do. And I thought about like maybe I should write it in German or Spanish or French or something, and then learn that. And then like once I like, because I have to say it a couple times, like over like maybe a course of a week, because I say it 3 times in the morning. So over the course of the week, it'll take me a minute to like, okay, I get that, and then like then I don't need the paper anymore. I can just say it and just look. So I don't know. I thought about doing that to kind of like really like solidify like, oh, okay, and then always know those because it's always going to be in my head like right away, on go, ready. um but I think it's a good idea, don't get me wrong. I'm just knowing that for certain languages I'm not going to be able to work the next day. Like I already know that.
Oh, oh, totally. Yeah. Build up to it. I'm not just saying pick up a new language and start it then. I'd only do it with Japanese.
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing that with Korean. Absolutely not. Not ready for that
No.
yet. But yeah, Japanese, I could probably do that every day and I'll get my legs toned and get some vocab in. So I like doing that, and if I've been working out forever. I'm a kickboxing instructor also, so I'm
Oh,
just used to that
nice.
kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm used to that kind of stuff, so it's fun for me. It may not work for everybody if you don't want to be active
Mhm.
all the time, which I completely understand, but it works for me and it's fun for me.
I think that's a good idea. Like I really think it's a good idea to incorporate that. One of the things I did try to do is I did try to find like YouTube videos in the workout videos in the target language. At the time I was like, oh, let me try it with German because I can understand, I can follow along better and see how that goes. But I didn't find no videos that was, I'm sorry, but I just think it's certain content and certain media that's just, it's just inherently always going to be better when it's created in English by Americans. I'm sorry to say that. I hope nobody just get offended, but that's how I feel. I just feel like there's certain things. It's always just gonna have that pizzazz and that you know what I mean. I just feel like just culturally, because that's what we're all about. We're really about the presentation and
Oh yeah.
making somebody feel something and relate and fun and pretty and shiny. And so certain, I noticed, like, I'll be watching, scrolling through videos, and I'll see, like, it looks so boring. It's like just a video with the timer. They're not saying anything, no encouragement, no, okay, guys. I don't know. I like that. I like when I watch a video and then they're like, okay, we're almost done. 3 more seconds. Like, I really like that. And then,
Yeah.
like, to watch videos and it's like, they're not really saying anything. It's just a timer and that's it. Like, okay.
Totally.
So I think it's good to, like, kind of get, or one thing I would do, I listen to our German hip hop and R&B, and then sometimes I would play that playlist while I'm working out, so I can, like, really listen to the words and, like, oh, okay, this is what this is about. Da, da, da. I can see where they're going with that. But yeah, I think that's really cool, and it obviously works because it's like a part of your life, to the point where you're like, I don't know that. I think that's the most proudest moment. You're like, what's the English word for that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was proud, but I was also worried. I'm just like, is English just leaving my brain? No, it was just a moment where Japanese said, hey, and I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. It was entertaining. And my friend made fun of me for it for like a week after.
Oh
It
my
was great.
gosh. But I think I don't know. I think those are like some of the best moments. And then I've also had the other side. I don't know if you've had this happen, where I didn't use French for a really long time, but for some reason, because I was so advanced in French, I just didn't think that it left until I found myself in Luxembourg. And the guy, and it's so crazy because I understood what he was saying, but he was just like, yes, can I help you? It was an ice cream thing. And then he's like, yes, can I help you? And I'm like I was really like, where's I don't know if you had that, because I know you say you studied Spanish in high school, but I don't know if you had that where you're like, oh, I know, you just take it for granted. And then when you get confronted, you're like, oh no, I don't know.
I haven't with Spanish, but I have with Japanese. Japanese, I've had everything. Good things, bad things, crazy things, everything. But I was trying to introduce myself, which I know how to do that. That's one of the first things I've ever learned. I was trying to introduce myself to some of the new exchange students, and I'm just like, how do you words? I'm like, um, hey,
Yeah.
it was terrible. It was awful. And I'm just like, and I walk and I'm just like, hi. It was the most awkward thing ever. And I walk away and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm doing. Why did I freak out? It was just very weird. Like my anxiety just went through the roof. I'm like, why? Just why?
Oh my God. I think that happens. I think everybody goes through that. And I think, I don't know. I think it's just a rite of passage. You go through that moment where you're like, uh, I can't, why? I think
Yeah.
everybody has that moment at least once. So I think it's good. Now I don't feel so bad because I felt stupid when it happened.
Oh yeah.
All right.
No.
So now we're getting towards the end. The first thing I wanted to ask was, before we get to the end, I wanted to ask, what are 3 tips besides the integrating it? That was a really good tip, and the language laddering, that was also a good tip. Do you have another tip for us? Because I normally try to end with 3 tips. Another tip
Ooh,
for
okay.
language learning.
Yeah. So integrating it, language laddering. Hmm. What's been working for me? Trying to think. Um, I mean, I'll call this tip 2.5 because it kind of goes with integrating it. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
having a conversation with somebody and it's pretty chill, just kind of think, like, if someone said that, or if you're saying a sentence to somebody, just be like, could I say that in Japanese? Just kind of think that in the back of your head. That's what I've been
Oh, that's
doing
a
lately, and
good
it's helped.
one.
And sometimes I keep a list of like phrases or sentences that I've said a lot in a day, and I go home and translate it later, something like that.
That's a
So
good one.
yeah, I'll call that 2.5 because that kind of goes with integrating it into your life. But yeah, I think my next important tip is, because I'm guilty of this, don't compare yourself to other people. Because I always
Mhm.
think like I should be here because all these other people that I see are speaking 4, 5, 6 languages and they're so far ahead. And I'm like, I've only been doing this for less than 3 years. And I started out with one of the hardest languages for English speakers to learn. And just because you see all the good things that people are doing and they're sharing their wins and everything, which is great, but that's all you see on like social media and things like that. They don't highlight the failures, which I try to do on my channel, on my social media. I try to do that, show the good and the bad, because that's what we need to see, because that's what's realistic. But a lot of people just kind of show their positive things and everything, and that's not all there is to it. It's a roller coaster, and we're all going on highs and lows. So just kind of go with what you need to do your thing. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's good to have a community, but don't think of this as this is what I have to do to be included and to be important to whatever. You're important no matter what. If you only speak one language, you're still important and you're still smart.
Mhm.
But if your passion is to learn other languages, do it for you, not for anyone else.
Thank you for saying that. That was very, very. I wholeheartedly agree. Because everybody's social media is a highlight reel, and at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on behind that highlight reel. So, I forgot. It was a very wise man that said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." I don't
Oh yeah,
remember who said that, but yeah, very wise man. I don't know if it was like Confucius or somebody, but he said
I don't
comparison is the
remember
thief
either.
of joy. And so yeah, I agree with that. That was a very, very good one. And then lastly, before we start getting into your deets, tell us about your social media, your platform, because you mentioned that you talked about the language laddering on your platform. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, my main page is on Instagram. It's at Tanner Languages. I bet that'll be in the YouTube bio, but or description. I can't do YouTube. YouTube confuses me. I'm like, where do you put things? But yeah, I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm just kind of chilling on social media. I've got Instagram and Twitter and Discord, and yeah, that's about it. I post a lot more on Instagram, sometimes on Twitter, but Instagram is where I make my friends, make my community, and yeah, I post a lot of tips and a lot of real things. Excuse me. And I like to post like, this is what I failed at, and
Oh,
I hope
that's
I'm not
nice.
alone. That's what I do. And I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be real, and I want people to relate to it instead of just, I'm great and this is what I've done. I'm like, no, this is what's going on in my life, good and bad. So
Right.
I want to be transparent and real, and I'm always open to talk to people and make friends and learn from other people because I still have a lot to learn myself. So yeah, probably that's where I spend most of my time. I just chat with some people, see what they've got going on, and I get my own ideas from other people.
I think that's a really good point about like saying, hey, here's the bad, like here's where I failed at this. I think that's really, especially in language, because I think people, like even at when I first started this, I kind of felt the pressure of, I have to keep up appearances. Like I don't know if people necessarily would see me as like respect the platform if I don't act like I'm perfect in all these languages that I've touched, when that's not the case. And I think that the fact that, I'm just like, listen, this is where I'm at. And there may be some people in the community that speak 20 languages, and that's great. But I'm not going to just be like, worried about that. And then also sometimes, I hate to say this, sometimes people don't even be speaking them languages like that for real. They really don't. They just know situational language. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because anybody can learn I learned situational language to be able to work in Spanish. You know what I mean? Like you can learn
No,
situational language, it's fine. But some people learn situational language and then they pass that off as fluency and then they kind of flex like, oh, I know these languages. And it's like, yeah, you just know how to have a conversation for 20 minutes. But once they start talking about the government and this, you don't know what they're talking about. You don't
exactly.
know that because they're not posting that on social media. They're just posting this 20-minute conversation that they had. And that's all you see.
Exactly. I completely agree. Yeah. There's a lot of people that have like all the languages that they've touched ever, but they call it fluent. And I'm like, no, you can say hello and goodbye in Swahili. That's it. You're not fluent. Calm down. So there's a lot and it kind of stresses me out. And I want to be completely open because if I'm looking at like German, Norwegian, things like that, I am nowhere near fluent. I know maybe a few greetings and a few words. That's it. I'm not fluent. I'm just playing around with the language. That's not my main focus. But there's a lot of people that are trying to pass things off as fluency. Like the videos on YouTube where they're just like, I learned Spanish in 30 days. I'm like, no, you didn't. That's
or
not possible.
or you know what? Or maybe they did, but what the thing is, what you don't know is they already had a really strong foundation from Spanish from before. And then now they learned it in 30 days, but they act like they learned it from scratch and they did not. Because if
Yep.
I popped up fluent in Spanish and said I learned Spanish in 30 days, I would be a fraud because guess what? I actually started learning Spanish when I was a toddler. So if I started saying like, oh, I'm Spanish, I learned Spanish in 30 days, but then I don't tell you, hey, they were yelling at me in Spanish to sit down, to be quiet when I was like 4, siéntate, cállate, you know what I'm saying? Like if I leave out that part, and I think people do that, they leave out stuff and then they have you feeling messed up, like, well, dang, I should be fluent by now, and why am I not fluent? And then it's like either they're not fluent for real or they didn't tell the whole story.
Exactly.
So I think it's really cool that you're telling the whole story. You're like, hey, this is my failures today. Um, it's not a lot of people doing that. Not really, really is not. Because a lot of content creators with the languages, I won't say a lot, but the sizable amount is like their native language that they're teaching. So of course they don't need to tell you about their struggle. Sometimes they'll tell you about their struggle with English because they use English as the language of instruction, but most of the time it's not. And then, people like us, we either feel like we need to keep up appearances or we completely downplay, you know, our talent with the language. This is just very complicated sometimes when it comes to us in the language community. But more
I
often
completely.
than not, I will say this, more often than not, I see a lot of us. And when I say us, I mean like Black women. I see a lot of us. I don't see too many of us acting like that. I see more of us very fluent and saying, oh, but I just only, and it's like, ma'am, like you've been working at this job in Spanish for 7 years. Like you fluent. Like, I see
Right.
more of us downplaying it and being frustrated and comparing ourselves and not realizing what we're comparing ourselves to. That I see a lot of.
Yeah, I get that.
I haven't seen, I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying of all the language accounts I've seen, I haven't really seen anybody like, oh, I speak these languages and they really don't. Um, I have seen it, but not with anybody in our community. I haven't seen it.
No. No, nothing like that. I just see like the the mainstream is the only comparison I can make. There's just a lot of focus on accomplishments and what you have done and being the best at everything. And you don't have to be the
Mhm.
best at everything, better than everybody else. You just need to be better than who you were before. And
Yes.
that's a phrase from my therapist, and I love it, and I'm using it.
Yes.
So it's great. And I talk about just real things. Like I have a post on Instagram that I made recently. It was like, this is my biggest downfall lately, and this is what I've been
Hmm.
screwing up. And that goes back to the over planning that I was talking about earlier, where I'm distracting myself and procrastinating. So
Right.
there's just be real on there. That's what I do every day.
I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of other people who are watching this that appreciate that too. So as you heard, she's giving you the real. And can you tell me again your Instagram name?
Yes,
How
it's at Tanner Languages.
Tara Languages? Anywhere else we can find you besides Instagram, or you say you mostly on Instagram, right?
I'm mostly Instagram, but I also have Twitter and Discord.
Okay, and then I'll put the links in the description box below.
Hmm.
So I just want to thank you so much, Turner, for coming on and sharing your story. I know that it resonated. I know it did, especially with the ladies that are learning Japanese and East Asian languages. I know it really resonated with them. So really quick before we go, I just want to say, please be sure to follow me. First of all, if you like this, like it, hit the like button, subscribe, so that you get, and then hit the notification bell so you get notified each and every time that I drop a video. Secondly, if you are a Black woman, so these are the mutually inclusive events, you must be Black and a woman at the same time, then please join the Facebook group. The link is also in the description bar below. Follow me on Instagram at Black Girls Learn Languages, and I will catch you next time. Bye.